Hello students, in this lecture we are going to see one of the topic of our unit number 1 of our subject system programming and operating system, that is macros. When I pronounce macros, the spelling it spells not like MICRO, micro. It is macro, MACRO, right? Macro. Um, Most of the students are not, I think, up till now aware about this definition. Those have the habits to study the different thing about the computers. Might be they are aware about this. Let's see what exactly this macro is. Macro is the concept which is used in assembly programming language. As we have seen in second year computer engineering, what exactly assembly programming language is, right? For your understanding, I want to explain it in only one line. It is the system software which is used to convert assembly language, right? We are talking about assembly language, and assembler is the software, and we are talking about that. When we write the program in assembly language, the assembler converts it into machine code language. How the assembly language is written, that I want to tell you with this line that I have said to you in one line. First label, then mnemonics. First label, then mnemonics, then literals, and then comment. Suppose if we classify these all names in columns, it means there are 4 columns, and by using that 4 columns we write the any assembly program. I am repeating: first write the label, then mnemonics, then literals, and then comment. We are not going to see anything over here about any assembly program and all this. Just to understand macro, some basic example we are taking, no matter, but we are not going to elaborate anything about that programming language. For your understanding, I have explained these things. Let's start with our today's topic that we have already that I have already told to you. Macros. Any programming language is nothing but the code, whether the code is written in assembly or in high level programming language. Most of the time what happened while writing the code, some part of the code get repeated, and if the developer use the same code for the different actions or for the different functions repeatedly, then it becomes some boring, right? And it is not good practice to write the same thing in repeated manner. Expert come with the solution for to avoid these repetitions while writing the programming, and that solution is named as macros. MACROS, macros. Have you understand? In simple term I have explained, and as there is a code or something example which you can see on your screen. This is the code. Suppose that we are writing continuously a1 comma data, a2 comma data, a3 comma data, and if we are repeatedly using it in our code for different functions, for different modules, then it creates something, an ambiguity, and some uh, unwanted lines of code, and it directly proportional to the decrease in performance of program. Finally, what is the goal of assembly language? As the word assembly is telling that something which we have to connect with each other. Assembly language is written to connect the different components of our PC which are required to execute a specific application. The programming assembles or collect or make a connection between different components with the help of assembly programming language. So here on your screen you can see some code that I have written over here. Right, this is the code suppose which we are repeatedly using in our program, and the solution to avoid such a repeated coding macro comes over there. Right, how it works, see over here. In the next slide you can easily see that. Right, what you can see over here a repeated coding with the same lines in the some specific program. Here also I have written, here I also written, here I also written the same code. Right, then to avoid such things macro comes. Let's see what macro is. I think it's a blur to you and to see, but when I will speak you can understand what exactly it is. This is the general definition of macro, how the macro is created. In our Marathi आपण म्हणू शकतो की खूप सारा एकसारखाच कोड रिपीटेडली केल्यामुळे प्रोग्राम लेंदी बनतो आणि अशा पद्धतीने तो लेंदीनेस वाढू नये म्हणून मॅक्रोचा उगम झालेला आहे. इथे आपण बघू शकतो how the definition of macro is defined. First, if you want to use macro, we have to first what we have to write first start of definition. We have to write macro, macro, macro name. Then macro name, macro word we have to write here, not macro name, macro word. Then macro name on the second line. In assembly code we have to write macro name. If we use, suppose in our programming we have used hola, something like this, hola, HOLA, right, macro name. Suppose here if I am writing hola, HOLA, then third line is telling about the code that we are writing in assembly programming language, from this curly bracket to this curly bracket, and at last end of the definition. Here start of the definition and here end of the definition. At the end what we have to write, yum end. Here we have write word macro and here we have write word end, yum end. That is macro end. If you understand the definition, please see it again. Start of the definition, then macro name, then the sequence to be abbreviated, and end of the definition. In this way we can define the macro in our assembly language program. Let's see with the example. Okay, where is the example? Here is the example, suppose that we have seen earlier. You have seen in second slide, this is the code which is get repeated, how the macro works for that. Here is the definition that we have created with the help of our previous explanation. This part is we consider as before part, right, before part, and this is after part. When we write the program, it is called as a before part. Suppose for your understanding I am telling all these things, and when it get executed, it executes actually these things, right, and this part is called as after part. Definition that we have seen macro. If you want to write the macro in our assembly language program, first we know that write the name macro, sorry, not name, the word macro. Then name, what is this? This is the name of macro, HOLE. Then 1 2 3 is the code that we have to write in our program, right? then yum end, that is end of the macro, yum end. Then again dot dot is given, something is there. Again the second phase comes of our assembly programming language, and here we can see the hola is get repeated, hola is get called. What is hola? Hola is the name of macro. Hola is get called over here in our program. When we use these things in our program, means what? Means what? Whatever under this macro name, means 1 2 3 is automatically get called by our program under this macro name, right? Because while executing the program, the assembler comes at particular point to hola label. We can see it as a label, right? Means whatever defined for this hola label, it is nothing but the macro name, is get called by the assembler. And what is there in hola macro? These things, right? Means when we see in the column after with this, as soon as when the assembler comes to the label hola, these lines gets executed. It would execute, right? It will execute these lines. Again dot 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 is there, is something is there which is not related with our hola label or macro name. Again when the assembler comes to the label hola, again the code which comes under the definition of hola macro name is get executed here, right? Means all these lines are get replaced only by using this simple macro. Just we have created macro for our programming, and wherever the repeated code is required, just with using the label or macro name, it is get called and get executed. In after column you can see easily. Have you understand? This is the actual use of macro. Macro is the replacement for the repeated code in simple language, we can say, right? In simple language we can say. Okay, then sometimes the problem occurs like this. If this is the code a1 comma data 1, right? A2 comma data 1, A3 comma data 1. If it is get repeated, then we use macro name as a label. But here after this 3 dot, you can easily see that this code is different. This code is different. A1 comma data 2. Here data 2 is there and here 1 is there. Have you observed the difference between this code? And suppose if this code is get repeatedly called by the programming need, then in this case what we will do, whatever the previous procedure that we have followed is not appropriate, right? Is not appropriate. Then what is the solution for that? Yes, but some experts comes with the solution for these types of challenges also. Have you observed? The code is different, huh? Data 1, data 1, data 1, and here data 2, data 2, data 2, right? What type of solution is this? The macro concept. Let's see. Here, the example that we have seen. Again, see this page, 2 parts, before and after. In before part, as we know that definition of macro that we have written, here we have write the word macro, then the name of the macro HOLA that we have written, and after that something new is come over here. What we have write? Ampersand argument or ARG and ARG, right? We know that in programming, in high level programming, we have seen that if we have to pass the values to the parameter through the function. We have used the arguments, right? The same thing used over here, arguments, and is the way to write the things. In second line, at the time of definition, I have told to you the second line is dedicated to macro name, but the code is like this. Then we have to use one additional entity, that is ampersand arg. Means what? Whenever the different code is get called, and at that time that particular argument is get faced by the assembler. See here, a1 comma and arg, then a2 comma and arg, a3 comma and arg. In previous case, here data 1, data 2, sorry, data 1, data 1, data 1, this thing, this thing, but it is get replaced by and arg and arg and arg. What happened because of this? Let's see. Here m and I have written, right? M and means this is the definition that I have created for macro. Then after some coding, assembler comes at the point where it meets with the label or macro name hola. Hola, here hola, the definition of all the hola is written over here. But if the code is like this, I have mentioned and arg means we are passing the argument. We are passing the argument for the appropriate execution. Here the assembler meets with the hola, and as I know that which type of code is there for the repetition, data 1, which I have written as argument for this hola argument, data 1. If data 1 is the argument for this hola macro, then it will get replaced by all the and arg of this part of this hola macro. Here you can see a1 comma data 1. This data 1 is get replaced for this. This data 1 is get replaced for this, right? This data 1 is get replaced for this. Have you understand? This is the solution which is given if the condition is like this. If condition is like this, right? Same thing, data 2, again all the code is get executed. Means macro provides the solution in multiple way if the code is get repeated, and it is very much important part macro in system programming like assembly programming. Then next part, what is the next thing that we have to discuss? Okay, one more. Right here. In this page, you can easily say. In this page, you can easily see the things. But you can see over here, 3 columns are there, 1, 2, 3, and on this page we have maintained some tables, right? Some tables. Keep in mind, I have used the word table. While studying these things, you will come across most of the time this table, and such type of questions comes in your examination, which having very high weightage, 8 and 10. Tables. This is the sample program in assembly. Do you know this? Yes, we have seen 2, 3, 4 times up till now. Then ... something is there, code. Then hola, this label is get again comes. Means what? the code repetition is there in the same program. Here again code repetition is there. We have not used argument over here. It means it is a simple program to understand. What we have seen up till now, that we have to understand with the help of two terminology: pass 1, pass 2, pass 1, pass 2. Right? When we write the program in assembly programming language, we write in this way. We write in this way. Then assembler have to do work at the time of execution of the program. Actually, at the end we want output, right? But we have used some concepts while writing the program to reduce the code, to increase the performance, right? At the time of execution, assembler should have knowledge about that reduced code, and how the assembler can get that knowledge by using two concept, pass 1 and pass 2, pass 1 and pass 2. Let's see, this is the program. Now when we execute the program, then the first phase comes, that is called as pass 1. As the code is in reduced format, but assembler used the technique first pass 1. Here you can see this thing is same over here. As assembler read lines of coding of the sample program, macro, hola, this one, this one, this one, this one. Then it comes to over here. As it reads the lines. That's why dot, 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 you can see these lines. But as soon as it comes to over here while executing, pass 1 only catches the labels. Pass 1 only stores the labels. What? Pass 1 only stores the label. What? Only stores the label. I am repeating. In pass 1 phase, assembler only works on labels or macro names How many macro names in our sample program? No, macro names means the labels we have used many times for the repeated code, 1 and 2. That's why in pass 1 only 2 labels are there. It stores only 2 labels, hola and hola, which is for pass 1. We have maintained one table. We have means at the time of writing the program, when we use such kinds of macro names and such programs, when gets executed, then assembler creates a table, YUNT, macro name table. How many macro names we have used? Hola. That's why over here only hola is maintained. If multiple names if we use, then it will maintain multiple names. 1 is the index, then hola is the name of macro, and this is the 1. This is telling about the address of next instruction. right? This is telling about address of next instruction, right? Then it is also called as counter, right? Have you understand this pass one? Pass one only maintains the name of the macro and how it maintains it by or with the help of macro name table. Then this is the not end of our execution of the sample program. Only pass one phases we have seen. Then the next phase comes, that is called as pass 2, right? In pass 2, the in other words, literals or the code which comes under the macro name is get extracted and assembler works on that. In which phase? Pass 2. I've seen this over here, hola. These are the lines which comes under the label or macro name hola. Okay, the same thing for this, right? For same thing for this macro name means in pass 2 it deals with the extraction of macro name which is maintained in pass 1 with the help of macro name table. The question comes in your mind, for pass 1 the macro name table is maintained. Oh, absolutely right. For pass 2 this macro definition table is maintained. For this pass 2 macro definition table, what is there in macro definition table? As the name is telling about that, the definition of macro. Which macro? Hola. This one, hola, right? And it is given over here. These are nothing but the literals. Literals are nothing but the constants that we use in assembly level programming. Constants, right? For our understanding, I am telling. This is the indexing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In other words, we can say it is the address of these lines. At the end, here we can see m end. As we know that this is the definition. And as table name is macro definition table, that's why we have maintained. If a question may comes in your mind, sir, only one definition is there. Yes, for our sample program we have maintained or created only one definition. That's why only one definition in macro definition table. Macro definition table is required for pass 2. Can I ask the question? If the question comes to you in examination, if they provide a sample program and they are asking about writing of pass 1 and pass 2 phases. In that case, you have to first observe whole program of assembly language. Then write down pass 1 for that assembly level program. To write the things of pass 1, you have to maintain MNT, macro name table. According to that, maintain or write down pass 1 phase of execution. Then second, for pass 2, create a macro definition table. How you will create macro definition table? You have to observe sample program which is given in your question paper. Then maintain or create that macro definition table, and with the help of that macro definition table, write it down pass 2 phase of the sample program which is given to you in examination. Is this thing you have to write in the examination for pass 1 and pass 2. Okay, then next thing. Here function of macro processor means kai kam hai baba macro sir. This is the last slide. First, recognize macro definition. Save the definition. Recognize calls, expand calls, and substitute arguments. As everything we have seen, 4 points are given, and everything we have seen in our program. This is the sample program, pass 1, pass 2, related with this macro function of macro processor. I think this is sufficient to understand what is macro, then what is pass 1 and pass 2, which is required for the execution of the program when we use some concept to reduce the code. Thank you.